Welcome back to Minded by Jay. I'm Jamie, and this podcast is a space for honest, sincere reflection on mindset, discipline, growth, and the thoughts that we don't slow down long enough to uncover for ourselves. In the last episode, we talked about ownership, about taking responsibility and control for what is in your hands, understanding that you have the keys to make the decision for what happens next. But there's a whole other side to that conversation because once you start leaning into your ownership, you're going to realize very quickly something that you don't have, and that is control. And so on today's episode, I want to unpack the word control and learn to understand what we can do with what we have of that control. For a long time, I thought that being disciplined meant being in control. If I planned enough, if I worked hard enough, then things would go the way that I wanted. Well, if you have any life experience at all, you know that it does not work out that way. For handful of years in my life, I felt like I didn't have control of anything. It felt like everything was kind of just slipping away from me, and I was going through the motions so much, like in my fitness journey, in my career, in my relationships. I just felt like everything was falling to the wayside. And so what did I do? I grabbed on tighter. I obsessed over where my career was going. I obsessed over relationships that weren't really giving me much. I obsessed over fitness into a space where I literally became miserable because I was putting so much and exerting so much input into those topics, fitness, career, personal, all those things. And it really was not giving me the outcome that I wanted. And that was almost more frustrating than to just like not send the energy to those facets to begin with. It was so frustrating not having the outcome that I thought I deserved and that I wanted. No matter how prepared you are, there are still outcomes that you can't force. Timelines you cannot rush, and chapters you certainly cannot skip. What does that mean? What does this ask of us? Ownership asks us to act, while control asks us to trust. And I freaking love that so much. Ownership asks us to act, while control asks us to trust. We often confuse effort with control. We think that if we care enough, if we try enough, if we hold on tightly enough, we can get a certain result. Because that makes sense. Input equals output, right? Effort does not promise outcomes. Unfortunately, effort does not promise outcomes. You can control how you prepare. You can control your response. You can control your effort in the gym. And you certainly can control who you let into your life. But I would argue there's probably more out there that you can't control. You can't control how fast or slow things happen for you. You can't control how people receive you. You can't control if something works the first time or the 10th time. You can't control God's plan for you. And honestly, that is where most of our stress lies. Not in what we're doing, but what we're trying to control that was never ours to control in the first place. And that is where the peace comes in. There's a certain level of peace that comes when you stop trying to play the director of the entire movie, but just focus on your own specific role. I've noticed this in my own personal life, especially in seasons where I'm waiting for clarity, waiting for results, waiting for something to click. And man, do we all hate waiting. Waiting around forces us into an instinct of tightening the grip, overthink, overdo, overanalyze, drive yourself literally crazy because you cannot just sit in the uncomfortable and just wait. But peace didn't come when I figured everything out. It came when I stopped trying to control everything. Let go. Just let it go. In my life, I have realized that letting go is not giving up. It is simply redirecting energy and clearing up space. Redirecting energy is opening up space for new and letting go of the old. And just maybe, you might like the new better than the old. Have you ever thought of that? Control isn't about giving up responsibility, it's about giving the responsibility back to where it belongs. When you try to control outcomes, you are going to burn out, whether that's in your personal life, your family, your fitness journey, your career. You are going to burn out. But when you focus on ownership, your values, your effort, your energy, you build something sustainable. And that shit, no one can take that from you. That is within you. You start showing up cleaner, lighter, happier, more energized, more present because you're not worried about what's going to happen in a week from now. You're not worried about the stuff that you can't control because you trust yourself and you trust your ability to manage whatever comes your way because you've built those qualities inside of you. And ironically, that's when things typically begin to move, not because you forced them, but because you made the space for them. So maybe today's question isn't, how do I fix this? Maybe it's, what can I control here? What is in my ownership to manage? How can I control my response? How can I let go of what isn't in my space to control? Why am I so stressed? What happens if I just let go? What if I just let go? Sometimes the strongest thing that you can do is trust in the work that you've put in and allow the rest to unfold for itself. If this resonated with you, sit with it. You don't have to control everything. Free up space, find your peace, and let it go. Literally, just let it go. Lean into your ownership mindset. Build your confidence within and let go. Notice where you're trying to control the uncontrollable and bring back your attention and energy to what's actually in your hands. That's where your power lives. And that's where you're going to find your peace. Thank you for being here. This is Minded by Jay.